Hello and welcome to the weekly wrap. So firstly, just going to take a recap of what's happened this week, then look ahead to next week and the key events going forward. So then firstly, just to wrap up what we've seen this week, and it has been pretty busy despite the fact that markets were closed on Monday due to the US President's Day holiday. But a couple of central bank events, and firstly we saw the Bank of England minutes for their latest MPC meeting. Going into that, expectation was of an 8-1 vote split against boosting the APF, but it actually came in a lot more dovish at 6-3 in the vote split. So we saw some aggressive weakening in terms of the sterling currency, sort of volatility in gilt, so initially moving to the upside with the anticipation of large-scale asset buys, but then pairing it with the expectation of an increase to inflation. Now, as well as that, we've seen the FOMC minutes. Now, going into that, there was mixed expectations. So some thought that the newest members on the FOMC could be a bit more dovish. There was maybe some expectation that they could hint at ending QE3 before the end of the year, and indeed that's what the minutes actually suggested, so they could taper off QE and may indeed vary the programme, so might not just halt it with 45 billion a month of asset purchases, just decrease that amount over time. So with that we saw some weakening in terms of treasuries, we saw disappointment in the equity markets trending lower, and also some strength back into the dollar as well. Also from the minutes, did highlight the fact there's quite a bit of dissent now amongst the FOMC minutes, so those other meetings will be quite interesting going ahead. And the next event for the FOMC will be Bernanke, the chairman, due to speak on Tuesday at his semi-annual testimony in the Senate. Now, other than that, the main driver in the market was the commodity sector. So we saw aggressive weakening in terms of gold breaking below 1600 on the day of the FOMC minutes, and after those minutes continuing that move lower. So less need for it as an inflation head if we're going to have less QE3. As well as that, we saw downside in terms of crude as well and precious metals across the board, and that just also weighing on basic materials and the equities, leading the leg lower. We did also hear some market talk. There could be a couple of commodity funds in trouble, just driving that move, but again that looks to be just adding to the sentiment. So there have been the main events this week, but looking ahead and the events going forward. So in terms of next week, the main thing we'll be looking for early on is the results out of the Italian general election. So they're being held on Sunday, results expected on Monday with the closing polls around 2 p.m. in London. So we're looking out to see if Berlusconi gets many of the seats, but the favourite to take control in the lower house is Bersani. So not too much known about him, but he is the favourite in the polls, but it's more likely they will have to discuss and form a coalition, a bit like that we saw in Greece, so it could get a little bit messy next week in terms of Italian politics. One to watch out for the Italian yields and those peripheral spreads. As well as that, we also have the UK GDP reading, so it'll be interesting to see that after the minutes we saw this week. And we've got Bernanke, as already mentioned, on the Tuesday. And then it should be quieting down a little bit, but we do have a few earnings left, but they'll be the main events for next week. So anything on the European situation, anything about relaxing deficit rules for European partners will be the main event. Apart from that though, that'll be the main things, and I hope you have a great weekend and a great evening. Thanks.